Hello and welcome to the Ask Aviator podcast. This is episode number 35. Today I'm joined by a new friend who I've just given a rash of compliments to. This is Harley Milne. Is that how I say your name?
Yes, that's exactly how you said it.
Fantastic. So Harley's from southern Arkansas, and that joke never gets old to me. It probably annoys other people, but I like it.
I don't think I've ever heard that one, actually.
Really?
No.
Every time I introduce Flex, I'm like, oh yeah, he's from Alabama. He's from England, for those who don't know. He's from Nottingham.
Nottingham.
So
You got to say it better with the accent, though. I'm not sure I can do that, but
I could try, but I feel like the few people who have really good accents, like Lucian, who are in the chat right now, would probably murder me. I have drunkenly done my Australian accent with Lucian. My Australian accent I generated because when I was very young, I won't say an age because it was certainly not illegal, I was given an ID from a friend who was from Australia, from Middle Park. And my Australian accent's terrible, but when you go to a bar and you slap down an Australian driver's license and you just use any accent, when you're living in Podunk, Florida, where we live, it works. So it was a great thing for me.
Right.
Lucy says, do it, it's terrible. All right, so we're going to talk more about who Harley is here in a second. What were you going to say?
no, I was going to say, remind me to tell maybe a joke after the show about the South African, the Australian, and the Englishman all drinking together.
I feel like you should start right now with that joke.
Okay, well, so it's clean enough, I guess. So is a South African, an Australian, and an Englishman drinking in a bar. And so the Australian, he finishes his drink and he takes the glass and he smashes it up against the wall and he says, well, in Australia, there's a lot of sand, so we never drink from the same glass twice. So the South African, being a South African, wants to try and impress a few people. And so he finishes his drink, he takes the glass, he throws it up there and shoots it, and glass everywhere. And he says, yeah, we can afford glass in South Africa too. So the Englishman takes his time, he eventually finishes his drink, and he picks up the South African's gun, and he shoots the South African, he shoots the Australian. He says, yeah, here in England, there's so many South Africans and Australians, we never drink of the same two twice.
Oh my God! So Lucian, I don't know if you know who he is. He's an Australian who grew up in London.
Right.
So don't go drinking with South Africans. Just in case. Just in case.
Well, it's the English you got to worry about.
Well, that's my point. Like, just don't. You never know. If he's an Australian who's also lived in England, drinking with a South African, he's about to get shot.
I hope not.
All right. So. Quick shout-outs to Kevin Can Fly, Jim CR120, 009 to 090, Carl Turner, Craig Taylor, good to see you, brother. The boat's still not in the water, man. I don't know. Jason Parker. Guys, always good to have all you be here. I need to have Catherine move her mouse because her screensaver just came on and it says, you are a noob. What are you trying to tell me, Kate? She's dying over there. Adrian23483, Jonathan Kaiser, great to see you, my friend. D Zig, nice to have you. He says, hey, Eric, I like the shirt your guest is wearing. What is your next adventure?
Next adventure, yeah.
So Zig bought a Scout after training with us. And, of course, you know how the sport is. If you train on one thing, you buy something else, you come back and fly all the time. We're going to just razz you a little bit.
Of course. Well, that's why the other part's on the back.
So I was razzing him last night because he came in and had a little butt landing, and I was like, "So how many parts did you break?" And he's like, "Not one."
Not
I
one.
was like, "Good." It was a good landing. He misstepped, and he's a good dude. I like to tease him. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you haven't seen the picture of me with the training wheels.
Wait, what?
Because I've actually done it.
With training wheels?
Yeah. I used to butt land periodically when I first started.
So you put training wheels on your paramotor?
I put training wheels on. I have a picture somewhere.
Oh my dear Lord.
Yeah. Robinson wasn't happy.
All right, so my guest tonight is Harley Milne. For those of you guys who would like to buy his shirt, you can buy that from Scout Paramotor. If you'd like to buy this lovely new exclusive drop, the Altitude is Everything shirt, they're available at aviatorparamotor.com. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about. I want to talk some about your adventure. I want to talk some about who you are, why you're here.
Okay.
But guys, we've got such a great group of people. You guys are really dialed in, and I appreciate it. Adrian says that the volume is a little bit low tonight. mind your eardrums, guys. We're going to turn it up a little bit. Other people say it's perfect.
I'll bring mine a little closer.
So Dan's behind the camera and the computer. Kate's back there monitoring comments. Appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to save Zach Riley your questions. Awesome. We're going to get into questions a little bit later on in the chat, probably about 20 minutes from now, and we'll jump into that. It's a great question. Andre Gamillion says, "Hi, Harley." Do you know Andre?
I recognize some of those names, actually. Sandor I definitely recognize,
Yeah.
And a few others. Hey, Andre.
Sandor is the most prolific paramotor fan on the internet.
Yes.
Shandor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andre is from Louisiana. Did you fly in Louisiana?
I did fly in Louisiana.
Did you meet a man who looks like a little green giant?
I did not.
That Andre is
Where were you, man?
man. Andre's awesome. I like him a lot. So, Jonathan Kaiser, he's
I'm not that far away. He could it's a small drive.
yeah, small drive. He trained here. Awesome dude.
Yeah.
Jonathan Kaiser's from South Africa. He
Okay.
says that biltong is out, corn dogs are in.
Oh, no.
His call sign's corn dog.
Dude.
Oh man. All right, so let's jump into who you are. Who are you? How old are you? Where are you from?
Oh, my God. Who am I?
It's a question many people have asked for a long time.
No, that's a really good question. I like to joke and say, I still don't know what I want to do with my life. So it's quite easy. My name is Harley Milne. I hate to say this out loud because I certainly don't feel my age. I'm actually turned 50 last year.
Very nice.
And
You can say it like my dad does. He's celebrating the 40th anniversary of his 32nd
if
birthday.
I can have half his energy and the legs he's got in about 20 years from now, I'm going to be good. I might need him in about 5.
He replaced the knees, so that seemed to help.
Oh. Yeah, my surgeon for my ankles likes to remind me that I might have to go that way at some point. So, yeah, I grew up in South Africa, spent my first 25 years of my life there, and then went to the UK and thought I would spend 1 year there.
You
And
didn't do any drinking with English and Australian people, did you?
well, none that I can talk about. Yeah, so I went to the UK and spent almost 5 years there, and ended up coming out to the US on a business trip and meeting a few people. And next thing I knew, 7 or 8 months later, here I was, living in the United States. Immigrated initially to San Francisco and spent most of the last 20 years there.
So, are you still living in the city?
No, actually, I own some property in San Francisco and sold up almost 2 years ago now.
Okay.
And have been living 25 miles in the East Bay out towards Walnut Creek.
That's where my dad was
Yes,
grew up.
yeah,
So my
yes,
dad was
yeah.
born in Philadelphia
Yeah.
and then moved to Walnut Creek. So I forgot that. That's right. That's funny.
Yeah, so small, tiny world. And then, of course, Ross, too, also grew up
Yep.
in Walnut Creek. So
It's such
Yes.
a small world.
tiny world. And Walnut Creek, of all places, it used to be, it's what San Francisco used to be, though.
It is. So I lived in the Mission. I lived in Marin County, just
Yeah.
north, on the old Air Force Base that they turned into a housing community. I lived there for a few
Okay.
months. I can't remember the name of the town I was in that was on the east, not quite East Bay, like near Berkeley. I can't remember the name of the town.
Okay.
It has the highest dollar per square foot for retail space anywhere in the world. More than than Rodeo Drive.
Like Alameda? No?
What was Alameda? It was in the mountains.
Oh, okay.
Very small town, and it was only there for 3 months, and this was 15 years ago. So
Right.
I'm aging myself a little bit, but all right. So that's who you are, where you're
Right.
from, where you live.
Right.
We'll jump into the backstory more later, but tell us why you're here now.
Yeah, so it's 2018, believe it or not, when I first thought about trying to do a trip around the whole country. So I graduated last year. I went back to business school back in 2017.
MBA?
Yes, I went back and did a business master in business, and I was struggling quite a lot actually through 2018, and towards the end of the year, just as I was getting back into classes, I was trying to figure out, what was I going to do in a year when I graduated, and I had a rough year, ironically, but it was
How
at
so?
the Plenty of challenges.
Physically, I know you had some physical ones.
I've certainly had some physical challenges, but mostly I was struggling in business school, and just trying to work through some things. A long-term relationship came to an end, and someone who I absolutely adored at the time, and so I was just trying to. It was tough. It was pretty tough.
That's awful.
Yeah. So I spent some time, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had started my aerial photography business the year before, and it was starting to pick up steam. But I spent some time, and I had this idea, I love to travel. About 6 or 7 years ago, I quit my job, and I went to Asia and traveled 13 countries.
Oh, wow.
And
we have to talk more about that, because I've never been to Asia. I've spent a lot of time in Europe now, mainly in factories.
Oh.
But Asia's on the list.
You got to spend more time on the beaches. It's way more fun.
I have had so I had a client in Norway in my marketing business. It kind of coincided with Aviator starting to grow, and I had this wonderful time between Norway, Monaco, Nice, and that was the only time I've ever traveled. Well, I can't say it. Well, yeah, the only time I've ever traveled Europe for fun.
Okay. And
good God, it's so fun. It's also very expensive.
It sounds terrible to say, because people try and tell you things when you're younger, and growing up in South Africa, I didn't really understand how big the world was, and I thought I was king in the world that I lived in, and I even tried to walk out of Heathrow Airport the first time I got there and go somewhere. And I realized very quickly I didn't know anything about anything.
You have to clear customs,
Oh no, I did that.
Okay.
But I thought I'd just walk out of the airport. I grew up in Durban.
Oh really? So you're expecting not to have to get a taxi or? Just
no,
walk.
I thought I was just going to walk my way and start hiking around, and no, it didn't work out. But different story. But so 13 countries in Asia. But actually, I had the opportunity to go back at the end of that trip and work with the Red Cross right after Typhoon Yolanda, and worked with the Red Cross out there. Was initially in Cebu and distributing aid. In fact, I started off, we were unloading 747s that literally would come in, they'd slide the pallets off, and we would load them by hand onto the trucks, bring them into the warehouse and inventory everything, and then some other people would figure out where the aid was actually needed. And then from there, we helped reload the trucks, and we got the aid out. And I really wanted to distribute the aid and actually put it in people's hands. And so I got moved to a different unit, and it was awesome. Like, I spent a lot of weeks, and actually finished in Tacloban about 2.5 months later. And Tacloban, of course, was where the hardest hit. But it just my travels through Asia really set this perspective about what's important in life, and places like Myanmar, where just tourists are very few and far between, and they want to take pictures with you because you're somebody interesting. So if I finish all 50 states, which I suppose we should finish telling that story.
It's okay for rabbit trails. Rabbit trails are our friend.
I want to go back to Bangan and go fly the pagodas, and that's everyone wants to go do the pyramids, which sure, I absolutely want to go do that.
I have almost no interest in the pyramids. Like, I would like to go and visit, but like flying the pyramids, and like Amelia's helping put together this trip, and I've been invited to go. Right. And I think it would be an incredible experience. But there's so many places. I don't like sand, so that's part of the problem. But
hang on a minute. You're here in Florida. Have you looked around?
Oh yeah. I'm aware. But I just I love the beach, but I love rocky beaches, right? Like,
okay.
That's just a weird quirk. When I broke my back the first time in an airplane crash, I never had any neuroses, and now I have all these weird neuroses where like. Right. If I walk on sand, or if I have dust on my fingers, I have to wash it off. I can spit on them and make it mud, and that's fine, right? Like, and if I'm working on a car or something, working on an airplane, I don't mind being dirty.
Right.
But it's these weird neuroses that came up that I never had any like OCD tendencies. It just something rewired. So like I wipe the rim of my glass every time I have a sip. Like people notice and they're like, "You're so weird." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Sorry, I'm broken."
Yeah, everyone calls it weird, but it's just being different. being who we are, and I like that.
Yeah.
It's better.
So like you talk about the pagoda as being a bucket list for you. There's an area in Western China that has these crazy looking mountains.
Right.
And while I don't have a huge draw to travel to China, I want to fly those mountains so badly. And I have a trip planned for Vietnam to go visit Ozone's factories, and I'm desperate to go and fly there, but you can't fly motors there, which is so sad. It's like, I don't think I want, like, to quote my father, I don't think I want to end up in a Vietnamese prison.
Yeah, no, that would be tough. Yeah, I mean, my trip to Vietnam, I struggled a little. I
Really?
love the rest of Asia. Hoi An, actually, if you're going to go to a nice French town in Vietnam, Hoi An was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed Hanoi too, actually. Hanoi was okay. But I struggled to connect with people out there. Everywhere else in Asia, it's just meeting family along the way.
Interesting. Well, I got to travel to Asia with someone like you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the 50X challenge.
Right.
Explain to everybody what it is and what it's supporting.
Yeah. So, as an immigrant, so I came here and I was like, so many people come to the United States, settle in one place, and just think that that's where they should stay. And I've been very fortunate. I've traveled to probably 35 or 36 states throughout the 20 years that I've been here, but never done a road trip, that
Really?
size. So, I drove back from Oshkosh a couple years ago and drove all the way back to California in a couple days, but I was like, hauling butt to get back.
I didn't know you were at Oshkosh.
Yeah, couple years ago.
Did
In fact,
we meet there?
no, we did not meet there.
Okay, because
No.
everyone's always like, "Oh, I met you at Oshkosh." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I forgot." We have a guy in the class in Denellen who met us at Oshkosh 2016, the first year of the Paradigm Show, and I'm like, I genuinely feel guilt that I don't
Right.
remember you, but I met like 16,000 people.
I mean, it's just because we're average, right? I mean, you got some people who just have a knack for learning to remember people's names and look them in the
faces.
eye and their handshake them, and they
Right.
just create their memory. It's tough. It's hard. It's a learned skill.
It is, and it's something that I'm working on. I've shared with you before. I'm part of Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO, and
Right.
we recently had a gentleman come through one of our power lunches, which are really phenomenal learning opportunities. And
Right.
he's a memory specialist, and he spent the first 10 minutes of his speech. There's maybe 12, 16 people in the room saying, "Oh, hi, you're Eric and Danielle Farewell.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 children. Their names are August, Arthur, and Eloise. Neither of you went to college. You were
Right.
both homeschooled. Eric, you dropped out. Danielle, you never finished. You own a business called Aviator Paramotor. Before that, you had Farewell Photography.
Right.
You had Trifecta Marketing and Publishing. And he walked me through the whole, because he memorized everyone's Facebook profiles.
Right.
And he did it for everyone in the room perfectly. And then he throws it on your head and goes, if you can't remember someone's name, it's not that you can't remember someone's name, it's that you don't care enough. And man, that was really humbling for me. So I've tried really hard to care enough, and I've not once had to look up your name on Facebook, because normally I would. So I've gotten better. I've perfected that you're at a restaurant and someone comes up and says, "Hey Eric, how's it going?" And I take a picture of under my armpit and send that picture to my wife or my best friend Marcus, who are both from Lake Wales, and will be like, "Oh yeah, that's blah blah blah," because they have my back, which is really good.
No, I mean, I can see why people who are super busy rely on a lot of that. But, so, I was a private detective for a couple of years.
There's so many stories.
But, when I went to PD school, you spent the first couple of weeks just learning about how to pick up detail. And so things like they'd give you a magazine page and give you, start off with 3 to 5 minutes to memorize it, and later on maybe only 5 or 6 seconds to memorize it. And so you look at the whole page and you read the article, and you knew it was about Smirnoff or whiskey. We're drinking some good stuff.
Thanks, Dave.
And then they would ask you what was the page number, right? One letter on the bottom corner. And so you learn to pick up. I was very good at picking out the peripheral vision, not always the big detail in the middle. But it's the same principle when you meet people. You kind of, I think one of the techniques I learned was just if they said their name, when you shook their hand, you looked them in the eye and you just repeated the name back to them.
Right.
And it does make a difference.
It's silly how all those little tiny life hacks make an impact, not just on how how you value people, but how they value you.
Right.
And like I am the king of making mistakes with this. Like I really am. I put Dan's girlfriend on my phone as Britt, Dan's girlfriend, so that I could search Dan's name every time, so I could finally remember her name. Right. Which took me a few days. You know.
Someone's got to have a comment about this.
But before we read comments,
yes.
50X challenge. You had been to 35 states. You had never done a proper road trip except for sprinting across the U.S.
Correct.
And somewhere, so before you explain what you're doing, how long have you been flying?
I first learned back in sort of like March or April 2015, so 5 years.
So
now.
5 years of flying.
Yeah.
How many hours do you guess you have?
It's a little over 300, maybe as much as 350 with this trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided that you would do the very logical thing, the thing that everyone should do, that makes complete sense.
Right.
And you're going to fly in all 50 states.
Oh, hell. I mean, why would you start a road trip and be a paramotor pilot and not fly in every other state? That's just it. How that didn't occur to me first, I don't know. But I think it took about 2.5 minutes, and I went like, "Oh, well, yes."
Has anyone ever done that?
So to my knowledge, when I started this trip, there are plenty of pilots that have flown over the course of their flying history, probably 30 or 35 states.
I'm at like 24 to 30, somewhere in that, like 20 to 30.
Right.
I don't even know, because I know where I've done my air show performances. I know like flown in some weird places, but and I've flown in I think 9 countries now, which is pretty cool. But
just one for me.
but you've flown how many states now?
This is number 19 in the tour. So,
that's fantastic. And you did Hawaii before the tour?
Yeah. So the inaugural flight took place November 7th, I think it was, 7th or 8th, and I started that out in Hilo. And that primarily happened because I was looking for other local pilots, and I didn't know anyone in Hawaii. And I looked and I looked and I looked, and I actually found a gentleman by the name of Eric.
Terrible name. His parents must not love him very much.
Yeah,
I love my name, Mom and Dad. Thank you.
So he's about your dad's age. He's in his late 70s. Actually learned to fly with one of the bigger names, and was out there. And I mean, he walked around with that motor like it didn't weigh anything. I got to fly these old Walker jets. He had 2 of them. And I don't know, they must have stopped making Walker jets, 10, 15 years ago?
So I had a Walker jet 8 years ago.
Right.
That was already at least 10 years old.
Okay.
They weren't manufacturing them anymore. I had a Simini 202 Mini 4, Mini 3, whatever that is on there.
Right.
Now, at the time, excuse me, I had recently picked up paramotoring, maybe a year and a half before.
Okay.
So I guess it was 7 years ago that I had that motor. Year and a half before. I was flying a fairly heavy unit from a known manufacturer who had sponsored me, much like your experience. And it was like 68 pounds empty.
Wow.
With a 125 engine. And I attempted... I bought the Walker jet because I got a great deal on it. Somebody traded it in on another unit. Like I was like, sweet. It was like $700, or something cheap. Maybe it was $1,800. It was cheap for a paramotor. And I was like, oh, I'll fly it. I'll have a backup unit. I couldn't run with the thing because I'm lanky. I'm 6'4", right? Like
they sit kind of low on us short guys too, man.
Man, I'm kicking the cage. I'm kicking the snot out of the cage every step, and I was like, I'm not even gonna try.
Right.
So I sold it to Rocky.
Right.
And Rocky bought a 172. Spencer bought the Walker jet. He ended up with a different motor. Had a ton of trouble with it. But Spencer had this Walker jet, and Spencer's my height, plus about 90 pounds of mostly muscle. Like he's a big dude, right? Like he's a big. Like, I love Spencer. I love them both. Right. Rocky's a Chinook test pilot. Spencer is a insurance adjuster. These are some of my early students, like guys who I'm like, guys, I'm really sorry. We teach way better now. Like it's changed a lot, but we're still good friends, and they were just awesome guys. And Spencer crushed it, man. Like he really did. He crushed that freaking Walker jet. Like I don't know how he did it because there's no way I could have. But you flew the Walker jet, right?
I did. I mean, in defense of the Walker jet, right? The only reason I think I was successful was I didn't try and do it 3 years ago.
Right. Well, that's a big thing. Is once you have the experience, you can fly the more challenging units.
Yeah.
Like I can fly. There's not a unit I wouldn't fly based upon my skill at this point.
Right.
There's units I won't fly based upon what I feel their safety is or what I feel their reliability is. But like, after 300 plus hours of flight time, you start to get that point where like your confidence is high.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy. You know, I my arrangement with Eric was, you know, I had the option of taking my motor out there, which is, you know, it was actually fairly reasonable to ship it out. It was only going to be about 200 each way.
Oh, wow.
So it really wasn't that expensive, but you know, I couldn't find it. You know, a lot of the paramotor pilots that had been in Hawaii have since left, and so it was only when I got here and met Alex that he said, "Oh, he still knows a couple of people out there." But I talked with Eric, and he's just coming out. I took my wing out there with me, and he launches out of his backyard, so he has a view of the ocean. And I'm not kidding because you can see the videos. But it's about, you bring the wing up and it's about a 10, maybe 12 foot run before it's a downhill launch. And the wind comes slightly out of the southeast up the hill.
So it's quartering, yeah.
And so, you know, I have...
At least it's quartering. David Nickerson asked for a little more volume on Harley.
Okay. I'll try and get a little closer here too.
Dave DePino just asked if we're still working on the Woodford Reserve. Dave provided this beautiful bottle of Woodford right here. He was here with us. You met Dave in Denellen.
Yes.
Dave, we are working on Woodford, but we met his bigger brother, who I think I have to thank Lucian for that. So just so you guys know, if you like to be featured on the show, just send whiskey. Like Rush Limbaugh used to get paid $1 million an episode to have.
I did not send whiskey.
But you will now.
Yeah, now I might. Maybe you'll invite me back at a later point, but I got to show it with whiskey.
You have to come back because I want to hear the completion of your journey.
Yes.
And we could literally do a 3-hour episode about the different adventures. I want to hear adventures from each state.
Well, we'll need at least 300 people if we're going to do.
We'll need 300 people, and we'll need a bigger bottle of whiskey. But no, Rush Limbaugh used to get paid $1 million an episode. I think it was Tropicana. Paid him $1 million an episode of his TV show to have a bottle of orange juice that he poured a glass of every time on his desk. So we're not asking for $1 million, Lucian. We're just asking for more whiskey.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this is good. I'm kind of enjoying this. I hope we wrap up long before I finish this glass.
I brought the extra bottle because I was afraid that you might need more because I'm not... So I've hung out with South Africans that drink. I've hung out with Namibians who drink.
Yeah.
The Zimbabwean that I used to spend a lot of time with would start the day with start the drinking session with like 17 shots. And I was just like, I can't compete. I'm Irish, Danish. Like, I should be good at this. I'm not as good. I concede. I concede
give
completely.
you another 10 years, another 20 pounds, maybe you'll learn to drink.
I'm hoping I don't gain 20 pounds in 10 years.
So when I moved here, I used to hang out with all these people from New Jersey that had been drinking like those big jugs of whatever they could get their hands on. And so I learned to drink with people from New Jersey and from Nevada. It was insane.
So someone just brought up in the chat, Kevin Can Fly said that we need to have a paramotor branded whiskey. We're working on some really cool projects right now that are branded projects that we hope, kind of like our strobe lights, kind of like everything else we've done. We try to bring refinement. We try to bring a need that the market has. No, it was not nearly. No, hang on. Come back. You have to walk right through the center. I've been reading the comments. You've been waiting for your tea for like 20 minutes. So Kate left her tea on the table from the pre-show, and I feel like seriously, come back right here. Just for a second.
I mean, you intentionally moved it there waiting for her to just come and get it, right?
So I want you right here in the middle. I want you to look at the camera. I feel like you have to do a little bit of like Irish jig. Irish jig? Come on! Dadgummit. So the idea of a drinking whiskey, we actually have a student in this class, a young man who I remember his name because I care.
That's good.
His name is Nevada.
I know.
So ironically enough, it wasn't that hard to remember. But he provides grains for whiskey manufacturers.
That's right. Is that
Yeah, he's a farmer. So Nevada, when you watch this, which you're probably watching it right now, or you may be very soon because you guys are going through debrief right now, we need a paramotor whiskey.
Yeah.
Brother man, please. I've also been seriously considering reaching out to Ryan Reynolds, the actor, because he owns Aviation Gen.
Oh.
And their logo is basically a copy of ours, which we have a trademark on. So
Right.
I feel like if you just sponsor Paradigm...
So just a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, just a little pressure. Like, I love Aviation Gin. It's delicious. And it is much better than Hugh Jackman's coffee company. So, all right. We have gone on the biggest rabbit trail of all. I feel bad because we're going to be here till at least 10 p.m. You decided to take a road trip.
Yep.
You decided to
Road
fly in
trip,
every state.
I'm going to fly in all 50 states.
You're at... How many now?
19.
I didn't care enough. Bye, Alex. 19 states now. Your goal is to get to all 50 states because of what?
So, traveling it was one thing. Flying a paramotor was definitely like, these were personal goals. But like, why do a trip like this without trying to make a difference in the world?
Absolutely.
And so, my biggest thing that I learned in Asia, especially coming from South Africa, where it's kind of a survival of the fittest kind of world, and empathy didn't come naturally to me. My mother's probably horrified right now, but empathy did not come naturally. And one of the things I really just appreciated about Asia was, just people are so robust. They live through incredible hardship sometimes, especially in the Philippines. But on top of that, they're just so giving. They just want to constantly, they'll give you the shirt off their back just because you're cold and they're not. Or even if they are cold.
In the Middle East, too, where they have this concept, and I've not been to the Middle East, but I've spent a lot of time with people from Qatar and Dubai and Egypt and Jordan. And it's one of the pillars of Islam is this idea of being completely hospitable.
Right.
And it's very different than what we have here. Like my family trying to be hospitable to people here, it freaks Americans out. Like we grew up in the hospitality business. Like it's my nature to serve people. There, it's normal. It's commonplace. You know, you have a stranger who just.
So I have a story about that too, even here in the United States. So I mean, I just so what sort of came out of that was like, well, wouldn't it be great to sort of do something where I could give back, or people just who thought what I was doing, right, living life to the experience that I wanted to make it, realizing that I can overcome personal challenges, and I wanted to find a way to make a difference. And so, raising money for charity seemed like the right thing to do. And so, what I decided to do, rather than picking a single charity, or trying to really direct where people would give towards, I thought it'd be much better if people are inspired by my story and the fact that I'm trying to live life to the fullest and overcome challenges, that if they just do something good, pay it forward. I like that saying.
Absolutely.
But hey bud,
this is Duke. Duke is amazing.
Donate to a charity of your choice that you're passionate about, and just let me know about it, because if I inspired you to do that, or that you were going to do it anyway, just let me know. I'm happy to talk about the good things that other people do, because it does inspire other people. You see other people do good things naturally. You see someone pick up a piece of garbage, you just want to go do it. Just go pick up another piece.
There's a guy on my drive to work every day. I don't know what his affiliation is. I don't know if he's getting paid. I don't know anything about this guy. But for the last 3.5 weeks, he's worked his way 3 miles.
Yeah.
Same guy, same orange vest, same gator, and he's picking up trash. And this morning I almost stopped to say, why are you doing this? Because I love it. Like I'm so inspired. Like you just said, like I'm genuinely inspired that there's someone who cares about their community enough. He's not wearing any paraphernalia that shows that he's like getting paid. Right. There's certainly something special there. And I think it's so powerful. It really is.
Well, so let me tell this story, right? So, so I decided that that's how I was going to do it, and I wasn't going to define what people should do. And, the reality is, as I've traveled across the country, Americans are actually considered very giving people.
They are. I mean, we're used to tipping, which is pretty rare, apparently.
But it's been so much more than that. And honestly, Eric, I could not have got as far as I have with this trip without people just saying hi, helping me out, letting me camp in their backyard. I have just such incredible stories. There's so many stories of places I've gone.
We have to finish the Hawaii story, by the way.
Oh God, Hawaii story. Go watch the landing and the takeoff, the good ones.
What's the link where people can watch that story?
The main website is 50xchallenge.info, and from there the links to Facebook, Instagram, and the YouTube channel all linked from there. YouTube has predominantly most of the videos that I've published in a few other places.
You publish your posts everywhere, which I have to give you compliments because it's very impressive.
I'm sure it's annoying sometimes because some of us are on 5 or 6 of these different groups. I think I was pretty rude. I think I did 10 or 12.
No, 18.
Maybe it was 7.
It was 18 because I got a notification that this has been shared 18 times. And
oh, goodness.
And then I looked through my feed.
So I apologize. I apologize. It was terrible. I was excited about being on the show.
So to give some backstory to that, before I'm interrupting your story again, I apologize, but I'm still going to do it because apparently I don't care enough.
It's your show, right? Wait. It does say Eric, father, pilot. How does it go?
So I'm a father, pilot, adventurer. Husband, father, pilot, adventurer, blah, blah, blah. No, so the what was it? I think it was Tuesday? No. What day was it I was up there? I was up there Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because I left on Denellen. We met Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
You'd been spending a few days in the Denellen location, our other school at X35. Yeah. And I was like, hey, when are you coming to Lake Wales? Would you like to be on the show next Tuesday? And he's like, I guess. So I'm really grateful that you're here. All right, so you wanted to give back.
Yes.
You decided that this was an opportunity for you to share some empathy, to bring a highlight to a cause. As a marketing guy, I have these great ideas for you.
Sure.
I think you should create a website.
I have a website.
You have a website.
It's a blog. It's a story, really.
You're a great web developer. What if you sold the states? So a marathon runner, they sell the miles, right? They sell the miles. They sell the tenths of the miles if they're popular enough. What if you sold the states?
So
I think it'd be cool.
My background's online marketing, right?
Yeah, we have the same background, except I don't have an MBA. I'm a high school dropout.
Me too. I just did it the hard way to get there, right?
Okay.
I mean, my mother might remember this story, but I did land up in a telephone booth for a few months because I was too proud to go back home.
Wait.
It was a long time
ago. Are telephone booths bigger in South Africa?
Of course, they don't exist anymore. It's just half the audience probably doesn't even know what that is.
Only Kate has no idea what that is. Actually, that's not true. Her father serviced telephone booths for a living for many years. So.
I mean, it was right at a truck stop, so at least I could take a shower every night. I used to eat by mopping the floor in the local Burger King, which is why I'm still a Burger King fan. But yeah, that's how I ate every day.
I have a funny story.
Let's finish the story before
you have to finish it, but I have to tell you about Burger King. Remind me, because it's actually really funny.
We'll try. You didn't fly there, right?
I know the Burger Prince.
The Burger Prince.
He's a friend of mine.
Is there anybody he doesn't know?
Continue.
So giving back was a big deal. So my goal is to try and get about $1,000 in donations in each state. That would be fantastic. I kind of twisted the arm of Bamboo Reef, who's the scuba diving shop that I've been teaching diving at for 20 years. I think they might do in fact, I know they're going to do a donation after this, right? But Brian and his dad.
What do they do?
They own Bamboo Reef scuba diving centers down in San Francisco and Monterey, and I was very lucky to work there while Sal Zamedi, who's really well renowned in the sport, kind of very different from what we're doing. But anyway, so trying to raise $1,000 in each state, and it's been amazing. I ran into this guy in Madison, Mississippi, and I came into the wrong entrance to the airport because I've been camping out at a lot of airports, and he said, "Oh, you lost? You need somewhere to go?" And I kind of said, "Well, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's my card," And he's like, you park your camper here. I'm going to let you use my private entrance to the airport
Nice.
and hook you up. And so I broke a prop the next day, which is terrible.
How'd you break it?
Crosswind. Yeah, it was horrible. It was a little nick, actually. All I did was split it. It was just caught a bit of grass, E-props.
So I have one claim to fame in
Yeah.
paramotoring. Aside from dropping things through it, 2 speed bars, speed bar links, I've never broken a prop.
So I never broke a prop till I was in Branson, Missouri. 5 years, never
no.
broke one. And I actually put that video up because...
You went that long? You broke your ankle and not your prop?
Oh, yeah, I've broken a lot of physical things, not so much
Holy
gear.
cow.
Yeah. I've learned to let the gear take it, though. It's much cheaper. The recovery is much quicker. A few nuts and bolts, it's...
Cheaper,
yeah.
So Craig Taylor just put it perfectly. He said that we could go on
Newbie.
for hours. We could go on for hours, but we'll never hear a whole story.
Yeah.
So you met this guy in Mississippi.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to keep each other on track. That's
Yes.
gonna
Okay,
be our goal.
we got to do that. Okay.
Salute.
Salute.
How do you say it in South Africa? I don't remember.
We normally say cheers da gatje.
Cheers de hotje.
Da gatje, which means cheers now, F off.
How have I known so many South Africans and not known that? All right.
Yeah, I guess that's about the politest way to put it. So anyway, so he has a commercial rating. He has an amazing story of his own. But I sat down with him for dinner the very last night before I moved on, and he said, look, I've been thinking about what you're doing, and I want to do something. And so this has been a thought in his mind. It wasn't like I was total inspiration. This is a guy who just wants to do something cool. And so he is doing an angel flight where he's going to help someone in medical need, and he's going to fly them from point A to point B. And so it turns out there are actually a whole bunch of angel flight organizations that pilots can work with and donate their time and their aircraft, and depending on the medical requirements and of course there's insurance and all the rest of it. But so to me, it's just huge, right? It's a significant contribution. It was done in Mississippi. And while not every place that I've been to have been able to do something, I mean, I'm really hopeful I'm going to reach my goal with the total amount. There's a doctor I met in Oklahoma. He's in Guatemala right now doing some cool stuff there. In Idaho, I got to hang out with a friend of mine's family, and I guess it's his aunt, I think. Sorry. But anyway, she donated $50 to the local old age home. That was her contribution and recognition of meeting me and doing my trip.
Doing
and
something
I'm like,
to serve others because you're showing
Yeah.
them what it's like to actually live.
and I think in
That's
people,
my mission. Like
Yeah.
that's what I want. I want people to see that we can do better for the world.
I think people inherently want to do these things, and it's just cool to make that kind of a difference. It really has. It's humbling more than anything else. It's the best way that I can describe it. It's just anytime I meet somebody who says, "Hey, I saw you. I think you're doing it. It's kind of cool," and it's a little shocking sometimes.
You're taking a huge risk financially.
Yes.
A huge risk physically. I
Sure.
mean, it's some of the places you've flown have been.
been a
We
little
should probably
sketchy
go
a
back to
couple
Hawaii.
times.
We should probably go back to Hawaii and tell the rest of the story because it's an amazing story. And let's do that. Let's tell that story. Before we tell that story, I want to ask a quick question to someone in the chat. Shandor, can you be here Saturday? Then I have to give a proclamation.
Yeah, might have to pull me one more.
Do you know how you make $1 million in aviation?
You start with 3 million.
The actual number is 7.2.
Okay.
We would like to support what you're doing.
Thank you.
We're going to donate $500 toward the Aviator Foundation. I'm not sure if it has to be the company or me because we just founded this thing 3 months ago and I have not talked to my attorneys yet. But we're going to donate some money in your name toward what you're doing, because living an adventurous life, choosing adventure, choosing to push yourself beyond your fears is one of the most powerful things to me. All I can afford right now is $500. But we're going to do $500 toward the Aviator Foundation's entire purpose is helping inspire other people toward flight that would never have the opportunity otherwise. And legally protecting people, because part of the problem we have with paramotor in the U.S. as we grow is there's so many airports are like, you can't fly here, or parks, or whatever. So we have a legal team in place right now. John Sidham, who was on episode 31, I think, or 33.
Okay.
It was 31. Baskin Robbins episode. He is incredible, and he's ready to fight. So we're going to donate money toward that in your name. So thank you for what you're doing, because bringing attention toward living your life the way it's meant to be lived is powerful.
That's extraordinary. I mean, just do it from Aviator PPG, right? I mean, it's for me, it's just really about the inspiration, right? I'm not looking for anything back from this. I'm just appreciating that, like you guys have treated me like family here at Aviator, and it's been humbling, like so many places. I mean that's been the extraordinary part about every place that I've gone. The paramotor community online sometimes can be kind of harsh.
It can be very hostile.
But honestly, the people that I have met every step of the way, in almost every single state, we are in an amazing community in person. And I've had guys drive 100 miles out of their way to help me out with something.
Yeah.
And that's what aviation's all about.
And that's the heart, is that we want to serve each other. We want to surprise, we want to bless each other,
Yeah.
And you're living a dream that we all want to live.
I am, and my only regret is not doing these things sooner. I know it's kind of a cliche, but the reality is, all I can say to anyone is, if you're thinking about doing it, my mother likes to quote me on this, which is, it's only money. Mm-hmm. It really is only money. I mean, honestly, when I look at what happened last year, and I look at where I am today, what was I waiting for? And my whole life, when people tell you that you can't do things, or we all have responsibilities, right? We have to go do these things that are important, and when you're connected and so forth. But don't ever give up on that dream. Go do it at some point. And sometimes just asking for permission to go take that month or 2 months, go live that dream and go do something that's exceptional for you. Well, I think that makes a huge difference.
Like what you're doing now, how long do you think it'll take you?
If you'd asked me 2 months ago, I thought I was going to be back in California by like May. But
right.
I'm sure I'm going to get into trouble at some point, because I've spent more time here in Florida visiting so many different schools. And the flying, my last 2 days.
Yeah, it's been beautiful.
Oh, it's been incredible.
I didn't fly in the mornings. Like, you've had two beautiful morning flights. I flew in the evenings, and they were just like...
Yeah, what are we today? Tuesday, Wednesday, it was Monday morning, I think it was. It's just extraordinary, right? I mean, you remember those days for
Absolutely.
A long, long time. And so, I'm spending a fair amount of time here in Florida, but I think as I make my way north, sometimes the flights are short, unfortunately. The weather and the conditions aren't amazing. But the big part about this is like, paramotoring is the thing that I do every day. That's a lot of joy, but I'm also getting to do this bucket list. If you're going to do a worldwide, if you're going to travel all 50 states, right?
Right.
If you're going to go do this, pick a bucket list and go do it, right? I started with the road trip, figuring it out. If you're going to travel 50 states by road, what are the 50 bucket list items?
Okay, so what are a few? I have to hear names.
Grand Canyon, right?
Right.
Oh, I mean, I have a story about that.
Okay, hit us. All right, we're going to ADD this off. Go ahead, hit us. What was your bucket list item in the Grand Canyon? What happened?
No, I just wanted to go visit the Grand Canyon, right? I'd never been, right?
Right.
And so, I drive through Utah. I fly there with some friends of mine. A buddy of mine, Andrew, goes by Drew. He has a radio show out in Moab. And so
cool.
Flew out there. He got me on his radio show. It was awesome.
Well, now I feel bad we don't have radio. I'm sorry.
Come on, Eric. You just a couple more people.
We'll work on it.
So from there I flew in Aztec, Colorado, right? So I barely made it into Southwest.
Yeah, you're
And
More near Grand Junction than anywhere
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
So, they sent me to a Class D airspace. They ended up redirecting me, which was good. And then I drove all the way to the Grand Canyon, and I landed up in some small little town overnight, which was the smartest thing because it turned out the entrance was all closed up. The next morning I drove up there, and I'm driving through. I take all my touristy pictures, and I call the airport manager, and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can I come hang out at your airport? And I got to pick up some spare lines and some stuff. And he's like, yeah, just come hang out. If you're here more than a couple of nights, you'll probably get, have to pay some money. And so then I get, kind of courageous and ask if I can fly out of the airport. Class D airport, kind of busy.
D's are fun. B's are better.
Yeah. And so, I get permission to fly out of the airport. And hooked up aviation radio and talked to the tower, and the FAA guy comes out. He even signs my log afterwards.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool. So, so not only do I get the privilege to fly out of this airport, they load me up, they get me inside the fence, they let me take off, talk to the tower, and cross the runway. But my exhaust, as I fired it up, because it was 20 degrees out, just disintegrates on me.
This is when you lost your exhaust.
Yeah,
I offered to send you one. Did we send you one, or you get one somewhere else?
No, I got one somewhere else.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I just like, we can overnight one right now.
I reached out to like 4 or 5 people, and whoever came back to me first got the deal. So
no, I don't mind. It says focus, please. Zig, is there a problem here? We're hearing good stories. We're ADD. Come on.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I got to fly that airport with a cracked exhaust and didn't go too far, and I have a few pictures with the Grand Canyon kind of in my background.
I have a story about that airport.
You do?
I do.
How much trouble did you get into?
I've not flown there. I'm going to. So one of the interesting people in my life is one of 3 Malaguita brothers. They are the Tejero Lopez brothers from Malaga, Spain.
Is there anybody he doesn't know?
So these guys are all 3 are members of the Paradigm team.
Okay.
We started with Manu and David. They came to our first practice, our first show. They threw an infinite tumble in front of over 500,000 people at Oshkosh 2016. They're incredible. They're at the time they were 3 brothers, and they were 3 of 4 people in the world to ever do a tumble on a motor, and all 3 did it the same day. Right. So it was a big deal. So David and Manu we brought onto the show because we'd heard a wonderful story from our friends at Scout, who had invited Javi, who's the 3rd brother, the oldest brother, to film this incredible series where they're going to go land on top of monuments. Right. They're going to go fly at what's the thing in the desert with all the rich people? Burning Man.
Burning Man. Oh, so I almost flew there last year. Of course, the days when we could fly in there and get away with it, they're long gone. But
so they took him. They all flew all these great places, and they go to the Grand Canyon. They go to the airport, and they get permission to fly.
Right.
And they're told, do this, do this, do this. They say, Javi, do this, do this, do this. And Javi does,
no
okay! And then did exactly the opposite. So I was terrified of working with Javi because, I'd heard this story about, whatever you tell him, he'll do exactly the opposite. And then, sadly, it hurt my soul. It hurt my soul because Manu wasn't flying at the time. David wasn't available.
Right.
And these are my brothers. These are guys who are part of the Paradigm. The Aviator family is one family, right? You've been welcomed into it.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, and then Paradigm Performer family,
right.
The people who wear those black jerseys have earned them. They really, truly have. You earned your Aviator coin. You've been part of this journey. You've seen the joy.
That was a huge privilege.
It's an honor. It's an honor to have you here. So, and to have you see both locations and see how both of them run and just be a part of that. So, Javi gets invited. He's like, I come from Kuwait. We have the best time. And he's just the most energetic person in the history of mankind. He really is. He is so excited about life. And so I say, Javi, come and join us. But I have to tell you, this is over Facebook Messenger. I'm like, and anyone who's communicated with Javi knows, 90% of his communication is emojis this long after like a sentence. And so I'm like, this is the FAA.
Right.
This is serious. It can be fines. It can be a seizure of your equipment. It can
Right.
be jail time. Like this is ICAS, FAA, EA, Sun and Fun. Like this is big stuff. Like this is not. We take Paradigm more seriously than taxes, and we spend more on taxes than I make a year. Right? Like this is a big deal.
Right.
And he comes, and he is just like, woohoo! But he actually did it. Like there was one point we had a show, and it was blowing 23 gust 25.
Jeez.
All right, like this is a really bad show,
Yeah.
and yet we were kind of told by the air boss, like, if you guys don't fly, you screw up the whole schedule. And it's 23 gust 25. It's linear. There's no obstacles. It's really windy. It's on our YouTube channel if you want to watch it. I was like, we'll fly. It's not going to be our normal show. And we walked the show. We're going to do formation, groups of 2, and Javi's going to climb and see if the air smooths out. So we're flying our show.
Send the dummy up.
Right. You have to send the dummy up. So he takes off. We take off. I inflate. I'm flying a freeride 16. I'm 195 pounds at the point. And I inflate the wing, get it overhead, and immediately I take a 70% collapse. By the way, when I inflated, I got picked up and carried 10 feet that way. Right. Like I'm gone. This is like
On a reverse?
on a reverse.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I'm in the air kiting reverse.
From 10 feet in the air.
From 10 feet in the air, trying not to spin around backwards.
With a motor on your back.
Yeah. So I wasn't alone. I know that at least one of the Martin brothers had the exact same experience. That's in the video. Mine didn't make the video.
Oh, jeez.
And so we're like kiting, turn around, power, go. And we're like doing some formation maneuvers. And it actually looked pretty cool. You know, we're going 0.6 miles an hour forward. We're going 75 miles an hour downwind. And it looked cool. And then all of a sudden Travis is on the radio to Javi, and Travis is like, Javi, we have to land our time, because
you're on a small window.
We're a very small window, and we generally have about a 20-second buffer where
That's it?
we're within 20 seconds every act, because everything we practice, right? We practice to be within 20 seconds of, if we have a 10-minute window, we want to have between 9:20 and 9:40.
Okay.
Right? Like we want to be so precise with every movement. And at 9:17, Javi says, "It's smooth, we fly, infinity." and Travis is like, no, you have to land. And Javi's like, no, I climb 100 meter. so Javi, and he pulls it off, and it's beautiful, and everyone loves it. The crowd goes nuts, right?
Yeah.
And that was both the Grand Canyon story and the Sun and Fun story, 2019. And we have Sun and Fun coming up. We're going to be flying again, and I'm not sure if Javi's coming. I'm not sure if David's coming, but we're going to have some fun. And if Javi comes again, I just fully expect to... he did land before the next act started, so that was good. He did not land where we took off from because he got blown back during his Infinite. Mm-hmm. But it was really an exciting experience, 100%. It really was.
Whiskey brings out the story.
We haven't even finished. I haven't finished Glass yet. He has. He needs to pour more liberally. Oh man! All right, so
I got to finish this show at least.
So you did all this stuff. So you decided to take this trip for charity.
Right.
You're completing it, which is empowered.
I mean, I have a long way to go.
Yes, you do.
You know, there are a lot of people who have flown way more states. I did meet a guy today, actually, who said that he has flown in about 46 states.
Who is that?
He was a gentleman here on the airport today with a trike. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
So he's the only person I've ever met that actually gives me reason for pause. Cause, you know, I'm doing this foot launch, so maybe it becomes 50 states on foot launch. I don't know. And at least I'm going to do the 48 contiguously with my own motor, which I'm flying a particular paramotor, and hopefully that gets recognized at some point. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm kind of figuring somewhere between 35 and 40. It's game on at that point. And I've got a long way to go.
Throwing myself into this and just trying to chase you.
Well,
I have a lead currently.
so there are a bunch of people who have a lead, but
I have an airplane also, so I can get there faster.
So I'm not going to share the bit that actually makes this what it is in terms of record, because I think maybe I need to keep quiet about that. Which is why I started off very quietly, right? I mean, this isn't about a record, but arguably, if I do complete this, I do think I will be the first one. Anybody could come in right now and figure out a way to beat me. Absolutely.
I hope they don't, because you're doing it for good causes.
And if they do, awesome, because this is about paramotors. I'm obviously doing it as a life trip, but if it brings positive influence to what we're doing in paramotors, it helps to raise the profile of the sport, gives us more access to airspace. Doesn't get us eliminated from airspace. That's the other challenge we face, right?
That's why the Aviator Foundation exists.
Yeah. So I think we've got a lot of work to do in terms of the sport. But, if somebody else beats me to this, awesome. If I inspired somebody to go, like, I'm going to beat that guy,
You've done your job.
I'd be the guy that inspired that guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's good enough for me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm going to try and do it. I thought I'd be back in May. Originally, I planned 12 months. Originally, I wasn't supposed to leave until now because I wanted to do Sultan, and then
When did you leave?
November. Well, so I kicked off. I moved into my camper on November 1st, so that was the beginning of the tour for me. But November 7th was the kickoff in Hawaii, and I could have spent a lot less time here in Florida, and I could be 25 or 30 states in, but.
Right.
This is not about how fast. It's about quality, enjoying the flying. The flying here in Florida has been, it was 20 degrees in Pensacola, and I had left Huntsville for an interview with a reporter up there, and it was more like 50 when I did that.
Right.
In fact, that particular picture of the reporter with the thumbs up, 5,000 views. Mine, 1,200.
So there's actually been a great question from someone who asked, is
There's
there a
question.
website?
I can't read that far.
Is there a website that you can find from Jim CR120? He says, is there a way that they can follow along your adventure?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
he wants to meet up with you.
Yeah. So 50xchallenge.info is the website.
It's on Facebook also.
It's on Facebook too. So I have all the links to social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I tend to, pepper the information around, but the predominantly, if you wanted to find out where I'm going to be, what I'm doing, what I just did, Facebook's and Instagram are the two places to find that information.
Kate, if you'll scroll down for me, please. So one of the fun things to me is watching where Harley flies and who he gets to fly with. And I want to bring this up because we still have to go back to the Hawaii story. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten.
Eric's going to love the other Eric.
It's simply the fact that you, and I talked about this with Todd a couple weeks ago,
Right.
The paramotor scene is oftentimes very fragmented. You have a lot of people who are like, oh, you don't fly blank, screw you. You don't matter, you're no good.
Sure.
You've been able to bring together a lot of the community. You fly a brand we don't sell.
Sure.
You've flown with Matt Minyard. You've flown with all these different people who fly different things. And the reality is that I think it's a really important thing because on the internet, everyone hates everybody.
Yeah, why is that?
Because people are silly. But the reality is that in person, we all just love to fly.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a brand I haven't got to see yet because, I started off not knowing as much about this industry as I thought I should know, and I keep meeting amazing people, and I run into people in a state that I'm like, oh, I should have known who they are because they are somebody, right?
Everybody's somebody, but
the beauty of this sport and the beauty of aviation in general is that pilots understand we're a group unto ourselves. But as paramotor pilots too, we really are part of a different group that no other form of aviation has. And so when you focus on that, honestly, the best part about the way I planned this trip was initially I planned sort of the route in terms of the states, but I didn't try and plan every place that I was going to fly. And initially that I considered that. But I get to a state and I meet some people and they go, "Oh, do you know so-and-so from this state?"
Right.
And they introduce me. And I'm like, every step of the way, I meet incredible people. And so if you want to have a trip of a lifetime, you got a paramotor.
Don't plan too much.
Don't plan anything. Get yourself a van. Van life these days, I mean, I'm pulling a camper, right, because I'm going to be in the thing for a year or two. But honestly, just every step of the way, it doesn't matter what you fly, what wing you fly, how much experience you have, whether you're somebody on a, I mean, honestly, some incredible pilots that I've met where my skills are 1% of what they are, and I will never have more than 1% of where they are.
And like I'm comfortable with that. I'm
awesome.
like, man, I watched Pascavalli or Alex Mateos fly. I'm
He
like, man,
snuck up on me pretty bad yesterday. Oh my God. I went to make a turn and you were there.
Well, I was watching though. I was waiting.
No, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, I made my turn and you were, like, I looked and you were in my rearview mirror.
Well, that's the nice thing with flying a really small, highly loaded wing is I can put myself anywhere I want to be, and I can also get out of that space.
Yes.
There's only a few guys I've flown with who freak me out because they can move faster than I do.
Oh.
Actually, there's, I think, one. And that's Alex Mateos. Alex Mateos can, like, be over there, and then he's here. And I'm like, how did he get there? He weighs 140 pounds.
Yeah.
But he's, flying a free ride 14.
I mean, the cool thing was, I mean, I wasn't spooked. You were just there, and you knew what the hell you were doing, so it was good.
If my battery's not dead, I have some good video of you.
I haven't seen it yet.
I don't know if the battery's
did it look like me, like, ah! No, but it was awesome. Like, I didn't see you coming. You were there. We had a moment, and it was awesome. And that's the best part, right? Everywhere that I've been, I've learned. Actually, of course, I'm flying a wing that's I'm learning to fly still, really.
What size is it?
It's 18. It's tiny.
1.2 or original?
1.2.
So Snake 1.2, 18.
Yeah. I flew it one time. I couldn't have had better conditions for learning to fly it in. My instructor shook his head and said, too much wing for this guy. And he was right. Absolutely right.
It's a lot of wing.
I'm learning to fly it. And I like it in the air. I've learned to do some cool stuff in the air. I'm still learning how to take off and land with the damn thing. Because, every week, I can land up in 2 or 3 different places in the same week.
Right.
And sometimes I'm taking off from 6,000 or 7,000 feet, and the next week I'm taking off from sea level.
I don't think I could launch comfortably at my weight, which is about the same weight as you, on a 18-meter wing at all. I mean, I've done it free flying. I've done it speed flying.
You're 20 pounds less than me.
Man, that's a small wing at altitude. It really is.
I mean, I did it in Utah. I did have a bad launch there. I had a little bit of literally almost like some wind shear. It was pretty bad. But I mean, the video's up there. I mean, I ran forever.
I saw it.
But I had the wind was not amazing. I mean, I came through the chimney there, and it was pretty rough. But I've learned to fly that wing, and in perfect conditions. As a less experienced pilot is probably the nicest way to put that. I'm learning to fly it, and it's a lot of fun. But that's the best part about this trip. Every single day, I'm learning something from other pilots, and I'm also learning as I go along. So anyone who wants to do something like this, go fly. I mean, my regret was it took a while to convince me to fly other wings. And everywhere I go now, somebody makes me fly something. And even this trip, it's just, here I've been.
I got some fun stuff for you to fly.
We'll find some time.
The problem is once you start flying Ozone's wings, you get so spoiled because they launch so easily and they stall so slow.
Yeah.
Like I fly a freeride 16 and in zero wind, I'm running far less than I was flying a Snake 18, flying a Hadron 20, because you can use so much brake.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
it's there.
I mean, different wings, and I really didn't understand this for a very, very long time, right? I started off on a wing that was probably too advanced for um, someone who scuba dives and used to carrying weight. It didn't translate, right? So I flew a wing that launched really well. It came up real quickly, but you had to actively fly. It was too much wing for me. Now I'm flying wings that are much faster, but definitely if you struggle with certain things like a launch or a landing, and for me it's landings, right? The launch is a little better. Well, having something with a lot more flare authority that's more forgiving is a good way to start, and that's the way to do things. And so I found some very active wings that I enjoy flying. It's very difficult if they're not exact or close comparisons, because if you fly a 22 gin carve, for example, on an 18 snake, they have very similar characteristics.
They do.
I like the gin because it has a lot less on the rises.
Way less complicated.
I mean, I love my snake for when I want to make an F-16 turn. It's the F-16 turn, right?
Yes.
It's from here to there.
Right.
But there's a lot going on the rises, and it takes some getting used to, right? But flare authority is something that's pretty important. And so if you struggle with fast takeoffs, then find a wing. So for me personally, while I've been flying the 18, I'm looking for another wing now that's somewhere in between my 18 and my 26, right?
So the wing that you're looking for, what do you weigh?
180 to 185 on average.
Same weight. Sirocco, 19. Sirocco 219. So here's why.
Okay.
So the Sirocco 19 is not certified, but the 22 is.
Right.
Well, not Sirocco, the Speedster. It's a C wing. Okay, so it's a advanced level wing, which you have the hours to handle. Whether or not your skill does, that's up to you, and up to your instructors and the team of mentors that you respect.
Right.
Every time I've gone up wings, I've spoken to the mentors, the pilots who are much better than I am, and asked them what their thoughts are, because I don't want to make a jump too soon, and that's with a ton of hours. I still talk to people who I believe are better pilots than I am.
Right.
In my opinion, if something like a Sirocco gives you the cross-country authority, easy inflation. It's lightweight fabric. It's like you breathe on it, it flies.
Right.
Hey, Duke. And it's a really good balance point where you're able to have roll rate like a snake.
Right.
A little more inputs to get there, but less input pressure.
Right.
I have a 22 you can fly. You can see what you think. But the 19 is way more roll rate. Way more. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just like, having flown basically everything out there. I haven't flown the new ITV Piper, but I think I've flown.
So I just flew the Piper 22.
How was it?
It's fast.
Oh, I know it's fast. I watched it at Cooper Car and I was like, holy crap.
I enjoyed London Ivy was kind enough to let me fly his, and I took off out of his backyard, so I got that T-shirt. It's tight, and it came up real nice, and I was off the ground really quick. Even had an engine out.
Oh no!
I did. Fuel cap again.
Oh,
God. I gotta learn how to sort that out. What I found was if I backed off the throttle, it likes a bit of throttle for your level flight. It definitely, if you're trying to get from there to here, really quick. I like that. Matt Mignard was kind enough to let me fly his 22 Carve. What I found about it, in the same way that I had to get used to the Dudek Snake, was it feels like it oscillates. I don't think it really oscillates, but you just have to get used to the fact that it's
moving.
It's
it
an
wants
active
to roll.
wing,
It
right?
wants to roll.
It's slalom. It's intended to fly.
It's like the free ride. Free ride. If you go hands up and do nothing,
yeah.
you blip the throttle occasionally, you're going to be upside down in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It
So
happens.
I've had to learn to fly these wings. For my skill level, and the one thing my skill levels are growing. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you're pushing yourself. You're flying a lot.
I am, and this is the one thing I would actually say to anyone. It's like sometimes I got hurt a couple times, and it took some time for me. It didn't come naturally, and I've had to build my skills. But every time I have flown a better wing, it's improved my skills so much more. and I've been able to go back to the wing that I struggled with and realize that, oh, it really wasn't the right wing for me, and I've developed some new skills. And so the reality is we kind of need a few wings in our quiver.
I think
it's just reality.
The number is 7.
Okay, I have 2. I need 4.
No. So when you add tandem, speed flying.
Okay.
So
yes.
it quickly becomes 7 because you need a big speed fly wing, you need a small speed fly
Yes.
wing, and then you need a tandem wing. So it's the number 7.
Okay.
I've become comfortable with this.
7. 7. I think that's 7.
All right, so we're going to revisit because we have to wrap this up.
Okay.
Poor Dan is dying over here.
What time is it? I have no
idea.
idea.
It is 7:14.
Oh my God.
We've been going for an hour and 14
He
minutes
talks a
straight.
lot.
I do. In fact, I've carried on the majority of the conversation. Kate.
You missed your Burger King story.
Oh,
Burger King.
Burger King story. I was going to bring up Hawaii story first, but so
I've been waiting this whole time.
so many years ago, I was sent a lead by a manufacturer for this gentleman who wanted to learn to fly paramotors, and I won't use his name because it's better this way. He flies over to visit. He has a pit special, and he had I want to say it was a Cessna 210. I believe it was pressurized. Flies over to my family's airport. We spend some time together. We talk about learning to fly paramotors. We have a nice breakfast. He invites me. He said, "Hey, if you're going to be at Summit Fun this year, I do all the niceties for all the performers." And I was like, "All the performers are my friends, and thank you very much for the invite to the party."
Right.
And turned out he made dinner every night for the performers, and he had for years. And I just never really been over there at night. I'd always been over there throughout the day.
Right.
So we had a bourbon or two, and he was a Scotch drinker, so we had the Scotch, and we ended up having more and more conversations. And it turns out that his father was the founder of Burger King. And so he owns a whole bunch of restaurants, and he's this incredibly generous, gracious man. Still a friend, and we still connect every year. And
Right.
I just couldn't get this idea in my head, like almost like the Prince and Mr. Rogers, right? With the puppet that like there's. I'm like, you're the Burger Prince. So like, I was never a Burger King fan, but I felt like I had to eat at Burger King to support him.
Right.
Not that he needed support, but like it just felt like the right thing. He never learned to fly paramotors. We remained good friends. But every few months, I'll get a text message from like, "How's it going?" I'm like,
Right.
"Life's crazy." So, he's a good guy, and that's my Burger King story. But now we need yours, not the Burger King one.
Not
but
the Burger King.
We need the rest of the Hawaii story, and I'm
Hawaii
going to
story.
preface slightly. You met this man named Eric.
Yes.
He is lending you his Walker jet and his flat top.
Yes.
And you have decided to fly from this crazy launch site that's quartering headwind. There is a very disgusting tree that is your worst nemesis that was then cut down afterwards. I'm making this story slightly shorter.
Yes.
Because we don't have 7 hours.
I
But,
don't.
what's interesting to me is that you go for your first flight. What happened?
Actually, my first flight was amazing. We go fly some waterfall. Everything's amazing, and we land, and it's even come in for the landing. You have to watch the video because it's a downhill landing, very very short, and I come in sideways, and it looks really cool, right? There's another video where it didn't look so cool. I haven't posted it. Maybe one day I will. But so anyway, my second flight, he says, "Hey, go up there, and the 747s come off just offshore. We'll let the tower know, and so try and get the
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, right? Try and get the picture where you're basically level with the 747 out on the edge of the shore and pilot to pilot, right?
Right.
So I get up there. I have an engine out, and it didn't start off just as a straight engine. I was yeah. So I tried to make it back, and I was full throttle, and eventually it dies on me like a quarter mile out from my LZ, which it was probably a good thing because it was a downhill landing, but I had a lot more space where I landed. It turned out to be 8 feet of grass instead of 4 feet. So
That makes a weird flare.
boom.
You had a crumple zone.
I walked away from it. I remember lying there going, "Okay, everything's good," and I did. I mean, I had to gather the wing.
Oh my god. So what happened the next time you flew it?
Well, so I thought I put a hole in his piston, which I was horrified about. It was he just rebuilt this thing.
And getting parts in Hawaii is not easy.
No,
we have some clients there.
I mean, actually, I gave him the battery that I took out there with my engine. Actually, re-topped that one up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. It's all gone
Thank you,
now.
Dave. I pull the piston out. Take a look at it. It looks amazing inside. We open the carb up. We put it all back together. We fire it up. We run it for 20 minutes on the ground. It's awesome.
Nice.
I get it back up in the air. 2 minutes later, so I put it back on the ground, and so he lets me fly his flat top, which is prize and joy. This guy, I think, Eric, I hope I get this right, 76 or 78, somewhere around about there. He walks around with that flat top like it's nothing.
What motor? The Simonini?
No, he's flying the Viterazzi 185 on it.
That's still a heavy unit.
Um,
It's not as heavy as the Walker Jet, but it's still pretty weighty.
I will say this, because I will get trolled again. I liked flying it.
Oh yeah, the weight shift's good.
I love flying it. On the ground, it's just for me personally, I just wasn't the most comfortable machine that I've tried on.
It has, in my opinion, it has the least shoulder support of any unit, and all the weight so far back. And this is not me bashing. And please, I know there's going to be a plethora of comments from people who follow that gang. This is not bashing. It's just personal experience.
I mean, I would say thank you for not giving me a hard time. I mean, he asked me, because I did. I basically shared my experience, and I had a couple comments on it, and I followed it through. The reality was I really did enjoy flying it.
Good.
For me on the ground, just
and you're in Hawaii.
I was in Hawaii. I mean, where else do you want to go fly a flat top? I'm sorry.
I'm so jealous.
But I had ultimately, I think I did 6 or 8 flights there with Eric. He had 2 Walker jets, so we ended up getting the second one fired up, and I flew around there. And honestly, I couldn't have started off the trip more amazingly, and I can't thank Eric enough for that, because
you started off the trip in my last state. It's the last state I have to visit. I'm so jealous.
So you've done Alaska already, right?
Done Alaska, flown Alaska, driven a motorcycle to Alaska.
Okay, I haven't done that.
Great trip. Desperate to go fly there more. I'm going to introduce you to my friend in Alaska who has
awesome.
mini plane with a 130 and a Sky Angel as well, and great guy.
Just get somebody to fly me there instead of going commercial.
I would recommend United. Actually, Southwest or Delta.
Yeah.
But no, Alaska was incredible. It was a beautiful place to fly. But Hawaii to me they have rocky beaches, wind. They have great surfing waves, huge wind, and they have mountains and beaches in the same place. Yeah. Like, I should live there probably.
I can't wait, really. I have so many more states to go do, but I'm so looking forward to doing Alaska.
So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions here, because some come through the chat. I'm going to edit them slightly and give them to you.
Sure.
What do you plan to do? The USS Charleston, I believe it is in Boston Harbor. How do you plan to fly there?
Give me a call. Yeah, honestly, just drop me a message and invite me. What I'm trying to do is, post an event on Facebook and say I'm going to be in this general area, and ask people just to reach out to me. When I started out, it was very difficult to connect with people. They was like, "Who's this guy?"
Right.
And now I'm starting to meet a lot more people. I'm getting recommended to go, and every step of the way, right? I'm going south tomorrow, and I'm connecting with Airlight, and then I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale. I've got a couple more names there. It's amazing now, because it's kind of a challenge, because I want to fly with so many people,
right?
And trying to make it work that everyone can come together. All I can say is, if I go to somewhere and you hear I'm going, if you want to come fly, it's a huge privilege. It's a huge honor. Come fly with me.
So it's USS Constitution. My apologies. In Boston, there's a young man. He's an Asian American, who has been offered a job here at least 74 times. His name is Johnson Q, and he fires particle accelerators at cancer cells for a living. So we can't hire him, but he has a strobe light system on his Scout that will literally light things on fire. It's so bright. Great guy, great pilot, and can definitely set you up with whatever's in Boston.
I'm sure it's going to beat that little thing I have on the top of my.
We should probably get you a North Star strobe and a couple wingtip strobes before you leave. Let's talk. That said, there are other places I was curious about. Places like Rhode Island.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet. That's the honest truth. I haven't figured it out yet. I have some friends up in New York and call me.
Call you. All right, so Brian Waller asked, are you coming through Alabama next?
Wait, say that again.
Are you coming through Alabama next? Or
I have already done Alabama. So crazy me. I was in New Orleans, was asked by a reporter to come up to Huntsville. I'm very glad I actually did it because I drove all the way from New Orleans all the way to Huntsville. Got to see the whole state of Alabama because then I came all the way back down to Mobile. And I tried to fly the USS Alabama. The weather was horrible, but if I'd planned ahead, I had been told by some pilots in Mississippi that you could use their field. But turns out you got to kind of get permission. You need to get permission. But if you can find a way to take off from somewhere else and go fly around, be respectful. That's all I can say is be smart about it. But if I allowed a little bit more time, we could have actually made it a fundraising event. So the U.S. Alabama has a huge amount of history.
It does. I've been on it. I love it.
It's formidable.
It is.
With her 6 guns up front, man, she's a big girl. So I'm having a blast everywhere that I go, and the more pilots I connect with, the better.
Nick asked what I think of the Nivik Cubic. I have not yet flown the Cubic. I've flown every other paramotor wing that Nivik has put out, I believe.
So I've been told to fly a couple of these wings, and I haven't flown any yet.
We'll connect you with Tucker and the gang up there. They have some wings to try.
Okay.
So, and you met Nevada, who has a beautiful place to fly in Pennsylvania. The
Yes,
Aviator family is huge,
I'm like,
man.
I'm under so much pressure.
It's a great thing.
Places to go fly.
In all seriousness, that coin you received, the Aviator family in
Yes.
itself, there's so many people who, we're training 268 students this year. We have so many pilots and family members from all over the country who've been through this shared experience and understand what we do, that you're going to have the opportunity to connect with, which I'm excited for you.
No, I'm honestly very honored to be here. And
great to have you.
Thank you for making me part of your family.
Absolutely.
I've had an amazing time here. I'm learning so much. Everywhere, every training school in the country has something a little different, and I think that's what makes the sport so amazing. Everywhere has to be a little different because of their environment and the local conditions. I feel like the one thing I'll take away from being here with you in Aviator is that it really is about inviting people to join the paramotor family.
Yeah.
And everyone, there are a lot of places that teach people how to fly, and they become friends for life, and I think that's amazing. But you really did make the difference here in making it feel like a family. So I appreciate that.
I'm honored that you think so. That's really what our goal is, to put people in a position that they understand it's not just about learning to fly. It's about so much more. It's about learning to be able to give back, learning to be gracious, to try to keep flying sites open, trying to create new places, and to have the skills to back it up. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of comments that come through. One was from Para Addict. He said, "Who is this? This is Harley Milne." For those of you guys who have not figured this out yet, Harley is part of the 50X Challenge, where he's flying in 50 states to raise at least $50,000 for charity, and he expects to be the first to do so. Ryan Roberts pointed out the gross income of what we'll earn from training. Ryan, I appreciate it. If you think that's what we're taking home, I would love to be part of your banking strategy, because we have 24 full-time employees and contractors who work here, and right now I'm trying to figure out how to keep the lights on.
You get into this sport because you love aviation. You don't do it to make money, and You know,
No, the money's a bonus. If you can find a way to make a living at it, good for you. But
it's hard. I mean, there's, a few years ago there was a lot less competition in terms of manufacturers. The sport's evolving, right?
Right.
We're seeing the motors are getting better, the frames are getting better, and it's competitive. I'm sorry, it just is.
there's so many people, like guys like you who've been flying 5 years, or guys who are flying some of them 6 months, who become instructors.
Right.
And we get the letters all the time from people who are like, I went to this school. We had one that was really terrible. That was a couple who'd taken a week off of their business, which cost them a lot of money, and they spent $32,000. I've told this story before, with a school for 2 units and training. And
Right.
they went down, and the guy drank a 20-pack of beer and gave him a course on motor maintenance and taught him to kite for an hour, and that was it.
Right.
And they had to pay again. And they're like,
Right.
I thought we were signing up for a class like yours. And I was like,
Right.
I'm sorry, we don't have a school on the West Coast yet. We really want to get one. But I'm going to bring this up now to the camera, is that we are hiring instructors. If you guys are interested in becoming an Aviator instructor, we're always looking for the best possible people, because we have locations that are already pre-selected that we want to grow to, but we want to create this Aviator family. And we've received some mockery from competitors, like, oh, you don't teach real skills, you only teach a family. No, we teach people to have
but
skills in that.
I'm going to respond to that, which is that, I was very fortunate, right? When I struggled, I got hurt, right? And my instructor just said, come back and help me teach other people to kite. It's going to make you better at kiting.
It does.
And I didn't know it, but I didn't understand it back then. But he essentially apprenticed me before I even realized I was apprenticing. And he follows a model where he likes to have new students help teach the next new students how to kite. And it is a way of enforcing certain elements of,
Absolutely.
they can't teach everything, right?
You learn more by teaching than anything else you do.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
And so I did that for a year before I got back in the air, right? And there's so much to be gained from that. And anyone who doesn't do at least some period of time of apprenticeship, I'm sorry, you haven't seen enough.
Right.
And I'm an instructor too, but I don't know jack.
No, we're always learning. If you think you have it all together, if you think that you are the best, there's something broken in your psyche. Because I can tell you right now, I walk out to the field tonight,
Right.
and I'm watching 7 instructors teach 8 students,
Right.
or 6 instructors tonight, and I'm going, the reality is I've soloed over 500 pilots.
Right.
I know what I'm doing. But we're doing a video this week, Dan and I and AJ and Chris, about how to choose the right wing for you. And I gave a impassioned 11-minute speech from my experience of how to choose the right wing for you.
Right.
And Chris came and gave an impassioned 15-minute speech. And AJ came in and gave a 40-minute intellectual conversation from the slides that he teaches, that he's developed with our team, our whole team. Chris above all the schools. You got Drew, you've got Mike, you've got all these decades of aviation experience working together to create something that's incredible. And AJ taught that. And AJ's not a public speaker. AJ's not, hasn't spent years of his life trying to be on camera like I have. But AJ gave so much information. I told Dan, I said, listen, if you throw away all the video except for AJ's, and it teaches someone better, do that.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it.
Every place has something unique to offer, right? The one-on-one, right? If you can work with somebody that's one-on-one and you're the special guy that gets all the attention, and they happen to have the right wing and the right equipment to teach
you think that's
the
better?
right way. I don't know what's better. What I'm interested in, and this comes from my scuba diving experience, right? Because I've taught, I don't know, 200-300 students how to scuba dive.
Right.
And so
I need my scuba certification so badly.
So teaching paramotoring kind of came a little bit more naturally in terms of teaching process, but not necessarily in terms of knowing what you need to know.
Right.
I've seen a bunch of one-person shows that do an amazing job. The one thing I think that's generally missing from the industry, and it's not missing here, right? Is material and tools.
Right.
And I'm sorry, that costs money.
It costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money, right?
We talked about how much earlier.
Yeah. Now, I stopped off at a school. I don't know if I can mention them, but
As long as you're not talking smack. I mean, you can say
I'm not talking
you're
smack.
talking. You can say whatever you want to say.
So I stopped off. I'm going to say it out loud. I stopped off at Happy Thoughts, just here at North.
Awesome guy. Love Carson.
Carson's amazing. He's had
really great guy.
He's had some incredible advice from amazing people in the industry.
Good mentors. Yep.
I watched this guy kite. He has some style. Like this guy.
Carson loves to kite and loves to teach it. I've watched him for years.
I took 2 or 3 pictures of the guy just doing something very good, right? And so he offers something that's a little different. It's not your program.
Mm-hmm.
It works for some students, probably not for the majority of students, but it works for who he teaches and the people who have to take it in small slices.
Right.
And my hat's off for Carson. He's been in business, 6-7 months doing this specifically.
He's a good dude. He really is.
He's a good guy, produces a program that people like, and my hat's off just to his style. He treats people with respect, and it works.
Right.
So, pick the school with good quality, right tools. That's the way to do it. The guys that didn't have a reputation, it's harder. It's a struggle.
Every school has different benefits. Like, we're really blessed. Chris is incredible as our training director because he and I will sit down with AJ and Drew and say, okay, what's worked, what hasn't. From the intro class, like piecing, like I was in Denellen last Saturday, I saw you there, and we're going through, okay, so we have a new class starting. We tested 3 classes back to back. And saw, or 4 classes, I guess it was. We tested having an intro slide that says, "Tell us about yourself,"
Right.
And then it says who you are, how old you are, what your family situation is, what do you do for work,
Right.
what do you do for passion, what's your aviation experiences,
Right.
And we tested A/B split tested,
Right.
doing it with just tell us about yourself,
Right.
asking them the questions live. And we saw so much more interaction. We saw so much more passion. We saw so much more truth. We saw so much less filling the boxes and so much more people who are like, they're sharing. And interclass, and like you saw on Saturday, can go for 2.5, 3 hours, or it can go for 40 minutes. And if you're filling the boxes, it's 40 minutes because they're just filling the boxes. Right.
I mean, what you know is that this isn't a new teaching technique, right? This is a technique that's actually applied across all kinds of sports and industries and so forth. The difference is you have a classroom and it makes sense to bring people in and you create an environment that's conducive to that kind of learning.
Absolutely.
Not everybody has that. And I definitely, I think there's a lot of value in there. And you're going to pay a little bit more for that, but you might get a little bit more from it. And that's my encouragement to the industry in general. I mean, there are some guys that do a very good job for what they do at their price point, but I think there's that interaction. It's very heartfelt for me.
Right. No, absolutely.
And I like that.
These guys love it. Ryan Roberts, if you ever want to talk about the numbers, send me a message. I'll be happy to share with you on the phone. You're right. Very, 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 very thin, and we don't pay our guys that little. So, anyway, that said, I loved this episode. There were so many comments earlier, so this is the best episode out of 35.
Oh, that can't be.
It can be. It can be. So my goal is this. I've spoken to Dan, who is our filmmaker extraordinaire, who's here way after work tonight to be able to be a part of this. We're going to do a pilot spotlight on your experience on this 50X challenge and prior. I want to talk about everything that you've done. It may be a 20-minute episode. That'd be awesome. We want some footage from you.
It'll be a lot of fun.
So, guys, if you want to hear more from Harley, you can find him at 50X Challenge on Facebook. You can also find more information on his website, 50xchallenge.info. That's 50xchallenge.info. Yep. For the rest of you guys, thank you all so much for being a part of this. I didn't see any other questions come through that I missed, except for one about center-placed reserves. We're working on a video about reserve placement. That's coming soon. Yep. The rest of you guys, thank you all so very much for being here. To each of you guys who are super excited and just a part of the family here, whether you're part of the Aviator family or part of the paramedic community. Thank you all very, very much. Shondor, let's have a conversation. Please send me a message. And also to Leanne and Derek, please send me a message. We need to have a conversation. Brad Roberts' wing selection video is in the midst of editing right now. At this point, it's going to be a 3-episode series where we're going to get 3 different perspectives that all direct you the same way, 3 different ways of sharing the information. Dan has been crushing this, absolutely been crushing it. JP Tulo asks, have you been to Ohio yet?
No Ohio yet.
So we've got lots of people for you to fly with in Ohio, including JP, who won the Aviator helmet from Tucker. Good dude. And
Can I wear it? Can I wear that?
Have you tried one yet?
I haven't tried one.
Try mine tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Link it to your phone. Listen to the audio.
You know,
The music's
I'm
amazing.
not a big fan of them talking back to me.
I don't want anyone talking to me. I just want
really
music.
want to hear
I just want
anybody
music.
when I'm flying.
I like music. That's it. Like
Yeah.
I have the Av radio, I have the 2-meter radio, and I want nothing else.
Brain dead. I hear nothing.
Mike R says, great show. Thank you, guys. Shondor says, thank you, Will PM. Jason Gutt, hope to visit and fly with you guys in the coming months. Love to have you. Nick Griffith, let's all come together and make Shondor's dreams come true. Guys, if you want to support Shondor, I know he'd love it.
Thank you. Oops,
You
I
broke
knocked that over. Thank you.
Harley, thank you for being on the show,
I
my friend.
appreciate it.
Truly a pleasure. We're going to say goodbye to the rest of these guys. Torktoff's here. DP, by the way, DP, I love your story. So for those guys who don't know, DP is a really awesome guy who lost a leg in an accident. And he and Craig Taylor, who's another one-leg amputee, have been chatting about him getting into the sport.
So you got to help me out. I have a buddy of mine in southeast Kansas that lost an arm in Iraq.
In Iraq?
Back in 2002. I'm trying to get him into PPG resurgence. So
We can make it happen.
We're gonna make that work.
I can't control how resurgence does things.
My
but
buddy Dave, he's an awesome guy. We're gonna try and figure it
I'm
out.
here to tell you, we are in the midst of trying to figure out the technology behind getting my friend Nick Santadesasso, which I know I said that wrong. Sorry, guys. Nick was born with one arm.
How did this happen?
He was born with one arm and one finger, no legs.
Goodness.
And Nick's gonna come learn to fly paramotors with us.
You know, I think it's possible.
I've figured out how.
I think we have to figure it out.
For about 95% of it. There's 5% I'm still working on.
The pilot.
No, he's got that.
He's
can
got
fly
it?
He can fly.
So who are we gonna figure
He
out?
skateboards. He wrestled in high school. Like
I hate you guys in the
One
one
arm.
wheel, by the way.
and what?
I hate you guys in the one wheel. I cannot do that.
I'll teach you. I'll teach you. I taught
Yeah,
Allie.
you showed Allie the other night. You made it look so easy.
I'll
and I'm
teach
like,
you. I'm a
I'm
good
gonna
teacher.
die if I fall off that thing. Like it's gonna be like, limbs everywhere.
So the thing with the one wheel is you have to go at a very particular pace, and that's called never get overconfident. And I love my one wheel so much. And if anyone wants one wheels, we have
My
one wheel
surgeon
pints
is
in
gonna come
stock.
after you.
We have one wheel pints in stock. We got 3 left, and I have a special price. If you want a special price, send us a message on Facebook. Send us an email at eric@aviatorppg.com. We will get you a special price and a pint because I'm about to order a whole bunch more XRs, and I have to sell some stuff to do that.
Okay.
So that's it for tonight, guys. Hour and 42 minutes. Thank you all so much for watching the show. Harley, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much, Eric.
It's a pleasure,
Appreciate
man.
it, man.
I can't wait to fly with you more. I want to
Awesome.
surprise you all the time. Good night, guys. So long. Have a
Good
good
night.
evening. See you next week.